Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. And I'd like to welcome here Dalila, who is a musician. And, well, you have a project going on, so I want you to talk about that. Before we get into it, tell us a little bit more about you.
So first of all, thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Dalila, and I'm the sound engineer and producer of Mya Project, beside being the singer and songwriter and synth players and bass player. Pretty much, I'm what I call a one-woman band. I'm also a physicist, so I love to kind of inspire. I get inspired my lyrics and my music from, the study of the universe and the planets. There is a lot of that in my music. The origin of mankind. All those questions that we all ask ourselves when we wake up in the morning, like what I'm doing here, right? So yeah, that's kind of my main inspiration. I started my music career very young, when I was 5. I'm originally from Europe, so I grew up between Italy and Germany, my two parents' countries, and with the finest classical education, because I attended a music conservatory first in Italy and then in Germany, playing violin. So I do have a classical background, which of course has influenced my music. But at some point during my music education in Europe, I felt the urge to start learning how to produce my own music. It was an amazing experience, terrific experience playing music from other composers. But I felt that this urge to kind of wanted to create something of my own, original. So the best idea, the best suggestion I had a member of my family that knew about the School of Sound Engineering in England. Said that that's probably the place where you want to go, because they're going to teach you how to be a sound engineer, to mix, to work in a recording studio, but also how to package pop music, which is great. It's true. The knowledge of how to put together a pop product, a pop song. It's something that people underestimate in terms of difficulty, because it's really hard to come out with something within 3-4 minutes that it's catchy and it's interesting and it can be sold all across the world. So this is the reason why at the age of 18 I moved to England and I started my career as a sound engineer. And then, of course, moving here, I'm now based in Los Angeles, California, because this is the other mecca of a music industry uh, outside Europe, which is a great place here. Unfortunately, there is a lot of controversy. Well, I'm sure that many people have heard them lately in the news. The music industry. There's a lot of dark side. There's a lot of good things happening. So the most important thing I say is just to always stay in the light and keep doing, the producing music, and then just make sure I'm focused on what's my purpose in life. And then pretty much this is a brief introduction of who I am and where I'm coming from.
And you also find inspiration from meditation and yoga?
Yes. Yoga is one of the things, interestingly enough, that was an unexpected surprise of living in Los Angeles. When I moved here about 12 years ago, Los Angeles is one of the cities where there are more yoga studios than probably coffee shops. Having lived in Italy, part in Italy, I was, used to have coffee shops everywhere around the corners. And here in LA, we have yoga studios. So, of course, I happened to start yoga to correct my posture from actually playing the violin for too many years, because one of the downside of playing the violin as a professional is that at some point your spine and your shoulders can kind of get crooked by leaning on one side all the time. So because I try to stay away from painkillers and drugs in general, I decided to take a more of a natural approach, and I started practicing yoga. And it was more exciting than expected, because yoga not only transformed my body in a very positive way, but also helped me to overcome some of human psychological issues we all have, between fears, anger, stress. So I am really grateful for that experience because also yoga helped me in enhancing my music production by balancing my mind and my body. So I do think that yoga is an essential part of what my music has become throughout the past 10, 12 years for sure.
With this new age of streaming, it's got to be a little bit more difficult to be successful, isn't it? Or how do you find success with streaming world?
Um, The honest answer, you don't. You don't find success through streaming. No artist, and I'm talking about even the big artists. I'm sure that people have heard about the letters sent by Taylor Swift to Spotify, and I'm just mentioning one of the top artists from streaming. Unfortunately, is killing art because streaming companies are what we call the middleman. Every time you have a middleman in the way, there is somebody taking a chunk of your profit. And the problem is what's happening with streaming companies is very dark because particularly a Spotify and Apple Music, and this is not something, a conspiracy. It's true that um, the majority of a streaming company would not give exposure or will not even put the music in in the loop of the algorithm streaming, that sort of programming, AI programming, unless you reach 1,000 streaming within the first month of releasing um, any music, whether it's an album or a single. So basically, if you don't have already the number and the publicity behind you, you will never get noticed on streaming platforms. So, as a person that has been in the music industry for decades, luckily I started before the event of streaming companies, and the internet in general has to be the primary source of music, new music. My suggestion is to find alternative sources. My main source of income and the way I put my music out there is through music placement, particularly with soundtracks, commercials, music libraries. That is one of those market where music is appreciated no matter what. If you have a good product, it will be noticed, it will be used. And by placing even just one song out of an entire album in a show, if you're lucky enough in a show Netflix or Amazon or whatever, play Hulu, that it's a worth 10,000 streams on Spotify or Apple Music or any other streaming company, because relying on the numbers and the money from streaming. I mean, I personally made in the last month, after 15,000 streams of only one song's, $1.50. So
Oh,
if yes, so I definitely do not recommend relying only and merely on streaming income to any artist, from the small one to the top artists, on mainstream.
well, you're probably old enough to remember when MTV used to play music videos.
Yes, that's
I
how I grew up. Yes.
Well, I understand that some artists make money off of YouTube because they get a lot of views on there. Do you think that's gonna maybe revitalize the music video industry?
Well, the problem, I think overall what it is that all these streaming companies and YouTube, we picture people working at YouTube, handling the channel or choosing the music or monitoring the views and likes. Absolutely not. It's all AI generated. All this internet world is handled by an artificial intelligence, and unfortunately, the limit is artificial intelligence that not does not judge the quality of music. Artificial intelligence does not question, this is something that is worth the thing, it will grow, like a talent scout. We don't have that anymore. Artificial intelligence works based on a very simple um, mindset, which is 1010, black and white, black and white. Somebody likes, so it's a winning product. Somebody doesn't like, it's not a winning product. So unfortunately, even with YouTube, and there's another issue here, that actually there are many companies all over the world where you can buy fake likes. So it's all a work of numbers and algorithms, which it's the wrong way to approach art. Because how many artists we know of, including the Beatles, they started their career in a, in a very awkward position, to where they were not noticed, and will do, small gigs at the Cavern pub in England, and eventually there was a human discovering their potential. And throughout the history of music, that has happened. As long as you have a human being researching and then doing the scouting, then you can have a future. But when we rely on machines to decide the fate and fortune of an artist, I think we're doomed to failure. Because I do not believe that the pairing artificial intelligence and art is a smart thing to do. Art is a very quintessential human quality. Humans understand art not necessarily through the brain, but through our soul, to our consciousness. There are, I'm a very, I love art. I love painting. One of my favorite painters is Van Gogh. And people ask me, what do you like about Van Gogh? If there's anything, the paint strokes or the colors? My answer is, I don't know. I don't even know what it is, but appeals to my soul. And it's the same with music. But an algorithm, an AI, a machine will never have that sensitivity, the sensibility to appreciate something that might be irrationally beautiful, so to speak. So, to answer your question, no, I don't think any of these internet tools are actually helping new artists. Maybe they're helping the artists that already are out there to spread even more. But to new music, to new art, it's a limitation.
Well, we talked about your inspirations for your music. Do you have a specific theme in this album, or is this, or how did you come up with everything?
Well, Dystopia, I started writing Dystopia, the album, particularly the first song, Rain, which is also the first single. I wrote it in 2019. And that's where officially the production of Dystopia began. I didn't have a title in mind back then, but then we all experienced the COVID pandemic in the world. So I found myself being, trapped in the studio, which was a positive thing, because in a way, I was forced to focus on producing my music. But observing the world around me and the reaction, the fear of people, without judging, I was just observing how, the world was going, particularly being a foreigner in the United States, and being distant from my homeland in Europe, and hearing stories from other countries, from my native country. So I felt a lot of discomfort, because I could feel in myself the fear, the pain that people were going through. So I thought, okay, this is very dystopian. This is a very dystopian age. Thus, I had the inspiration for the name of my album. And also the cover art is kind of indicative of what it could be, a state of mind where humans are confined and restricted, and their freedom is limited because of, things happening in the world. So that was a part of the inspiration. But the album is centered mostly on the origins of mankind. The album started, it opens with the song "The Universe Begins," because of course, as a physicist, I'll always have this question: okay, what we're doing here. Are we here just once in a lifetime? Or do we come back here? Is death the end? Do we go back to a source? I'm a very spiritual person, so I'm very open about my view on religion. I do not necessarily believe in a specific God, but I do believe in a higher consciousness, which we could easily call God or the source or whatever, whoever, you whatever is the name you want to use, I'm fine with it. And definitely there's a lot of that in the album, to where I ask my listener to have a little more deeper thoughts about what's the significance of our life here, and also fearless the idea of death, as I see it as just a moment of transformation, as a sort of a passage between states. Could be between reincarnation, could be between two different life, in the different dimensions, whatever that is. But I feel it's a very interesting subject to put into words, into songwriting, because I think it's one of the greatest questions that have been, has bugged the human mankind since the beginning of all of this. Between philosophers and artists and scientists, we all at some point asked ourselves, okay, what the heck are we doing here?
Exactly. Are all your albums going to be themed like that?
Not necessarily. Of course, there's always a reference, because that's reflects my nature, who I am. I'm a very metaphysical person. But I think the next album is still probably is going to be centered on the relationship between the mankind and the universe, but more, um, I would say, in a more pragmatic point of view, to where I would like to talk more about physical and mental issues rather than metaphysical.
Hmm.
But I don't want to spoil too much, because I love for my listeners to read my lyrics and make whatever they want out of it. I mean, I don't necessarily give a specific meaning to my lyrics. It's very open, and I like different interpretation. A little bit like when you read books of philosophy, you can have an opinion, but it doesn't necessarily has to be the correct one or the only explanation. So I would like to leave a little bit of openness to the question, because I would like my listeners to come out with their own opinion about my music.
Are you selling hard copies of your music?
Yes, actually, I give the an option of buying either the CD or the vinyl. I like the old style device. There's a deluxe, and can be purchased on Bandcamp. So the easiest way to do that is just to visit my official website, nyaprojectmusic.com, where you can find all the links either to the streaming platforms, or you can buy the album. It's $7, so I'm not asking for that much, considering the all the percentage and the publishing royalties. So, but there's a direct link on my website, so where you can buy it on Bandcamp.
Now, I've had different artists on the show, and even though I can get it for basically for free on streaming, I will still go and purchase it just to show that, hey, I want you to keep making the music. We need to do that for all of our favorite artists, just to show our
Yes,
support.
yes,
But I will put the links to your website up in the description. And I'm assuming you're on social media.
yes. I am on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Yes, and the link to the Instagram and Facebook is MYA Project Music. So you can find me everywhere. That's the official name of the project, MYA Project Music. And yes, I'm on all social medias. Spoiler alert: my album was originally taken down by TuneCore, one of the distributor. After a decision on not wanting to comply with certain um, dictatorship over pronouns or things, where I try to keep my music out of all the chaotic, all the discussions out there. Unfortunately, I could not. because apparently we are in a moment in history when if you don't take a stand, if you don't take a position, then you're going to be censored. Unfortunately, being neutral, being out of it, ended up my album being deleted. But luckily, I am now with a much better streaming company, which is CD Baby, and they had no problem just republishing my music for who I am, and the fact that I don't have any desire to take any part in the charades, and it's out there again. So the latest release, Dystopia, is the deluxe version because I decided after being censored to add an extra 2 tracks as a thank you to my listeners. So there are 2 extra remixes of Rain and Lost in Words. So the new version has 2 extra tracks that my people can enjoy, and it's out there and it's been there since September. So yeah, go for it.
Do you have a merch store as well?
No, not yet.
No.
So
Well, we can
um,
expect that in the future, though, right?
yes, I am trying. The goal is to be completely independent because I released my before Dystopia. I was with a major label in England, and I was happy, very happy. And was a good relationship. I just decided that I wanted to become completely independent, mostly because I want to have 100% full control over my music, my decisions, the style, everything, including artwork, the way I dress, the way I talk. I don't want anybody to tell me how to behave or what to do or who I am. And because I realized that. Numbers are not the real success for an artist. I think the real success stands behind the freedom. I've seen so many artists being swallowed by the music industry and have lost their personality, they've lost their soul, literally. And that is not my case. I want to. Maintain my integrity, my honor, the freedom, the happiness of I want to be always want to be happy of doing what I do. So I rather compromise and having, a little less of I'm not making billions, but I can survive. So that's already for me a victory. And that's why Dystopia is actually, for me, a very important album because it's the first released under MYA Project Publishing. I opened my publishing company. I'm an independent label, officially a legit independent label. And I'm also open to produce other acts for anybody that's interested because I have a professional recording studio I built 10 years ago, always expanding, new gears, new tools. I'm a shopaholic as a as a sound engineer, so I have equipment worth $50,000 and more, I believe. So I'm excited because this gives me also the opportunity to, if I ever encounter an artist or a music project that is worth looking into it and producing and developing, I would love to because I'm here for the passion, of course, for the profit. But it comes as a secondary purpose. The most important thing is doing things for passion and for art itself.
Well, stay independent. It's sad that you can't even be neutral nowadays without being controversial.
Yes, as if unfortunately, I think it's more of a the word is colliding. We're reaching a point of where things are reaching an extreme, and
Yeah.
where there's no turning back. So unfortunately, we humans tend to have to experience things to the fullest before we realize, we need to really hurt ourselves before realizing, okay, this is wrong. I mean, I'm originally from Europe. My German side of the family lived throughout the, World War II in Nazi Germany. So I
Mhm.
take that as an example of how sometimes humans have to go through the darkness to understand what are the important values. And sometimes can be war, sometimes can be censorship, sometimes can be a pandemic, whatever that is. Sometimes we humans have to be reminded that enough is enough,
Yep.
And I'm looking forward that day to where we wake up and decide, okay, this has gone too far. We can be balanced and living in harmony without killing or hating each other, because
Yep.
hatred does not lead anywhere. Once
No.
again, coming from a family surviving World War II, I can tell people hatred does not lead anywhere. So let's always choose love and harmony over hatred.
Amen to that. Well, again, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank
No,
you for having me.
I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network